we're live. I am so fucked up about this time change this year. And I know everybody bitches about it. I've never bitched about it. And I am just like wasted. I didn't go to sleep until late last night and I woke up early and it's just a rough day. But hey, it's going to get better. It's going to get better because I've got I've got an interview today, so that's great. I've got a new initiative. If you're watching this now or you're watching it um, later, you see the little QR code there. It says follow on YouTube because it wouldn't give me enough letters. Follow me on YouTube or follow Behind the Bits on YouTube. I had to do this. So this is a QR code. If you scan it, you can follow me on YouTube. I'm really putting some effort into my YouTube channel now, which YouTube just used to be a repository for all my videos. And now I've got a little bit more organized. I'm putting up videos on a regular basis where I'm cutting out the best parts of interviews and putting them up. So just a few minutes ago, I put Orlando Baxter writing on stage. I've got Nathan McIntosh, the best advice he's ever gotten and the worst advice. I've got Sam Talent talking about one of his bombs. And I've got Rita Rudner talking about Rodney Dangerfield giving her a big break. So if you wouldn't mind following me on YouTube, that would be great. And there is extra content and shorts and stuff that I'm doing just for YouTube. But yeah, so thanks for following. If you're following, if you're not following, please follow. I'm stoked to have my guest today. I actually met Ralph through, I think, a couple other folks I've had on the show, John Poveromo and Mark Riccadonna. That's how I came to meet him virtually. I haven't met him in person yet, but let's talk about him a little bit. Ralph Anthony has traveled overseas to Europe, where he's performed at some of the top shows in London and Paris. He's also been to the World Comedy Expo and the New York Comedy Underground Festival, the DC Comedy Festival, the NC, which must be North Carolina Comedy Festival, the World Series of Comedy. He's been on Sirius XM, ESPN, the New York Comedy Festival, and he's been a featured headliner at Bonkerz, the comedy club chain, and he's headlined on Caroline's on Broadway. He's also a Meisner-trained actor, and just a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, he released his debut comedy album, 40 for 40, which I listened to and really enjoyed. Let's bring him up right now. It's Ralph Anthony.
Hey,
Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, brother. How you doing?
I'm
Thank
really
you for
hoping my voice holds out. I was losing it just doing the intro here, so I hope my voice holds out today.
I tell you what, man, that's the best intro I think I've ever gotten for anything. So thank you. Kudos to you, giving everybody my life story already. That's fantastic. What are we going to talk about now? That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. Have a good night.
Did you ever listen to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast?
No, I didn't even know we had a podcast.
Oh, you gotta listen. You gotta listen. I mean, it's the best podcast in the world. I mean, I've never listened to something as stupid and good as Gilbert's podcast. But when he had a guest on, he would read their entire IMDb. And most of these guests were like 90 years old. So he's reading from 1927 to present day. And so that'd take up like 10 minutes. And he wouldn't shut up. He wouldn't stop. And so I tried to do something in between that and saying, here's Ralph Anthony.
Oh, I could dig it, man. I mean, you did a great job, so thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. I wanted to jump into the album. I'm going to pop it up a little bit bigger here real quick so people know what it looks like when they're looking for it. 40 for 40, obviously written around your 40th birthday and performed around your 40th birthday. I really like to talk to folks that put out an album, especially their first album, about, what made them want to do it. How did you do it? And how are you getting it out there so people can listen to it? And what do you expect from it? So, first off, what made you want to do the album?
To be honest with you, it's kind of embarrassing, but like um, I didn't know that it was going to be a possibility. Like,
Mhm.
um, over COVID, when COVID first happened and the world shut down, I jumped on Zoom like literally like that next week. Like on New York shut down March 7th, I think it was like March 17th. By March 24th, I had already done my first Zoom show
Mhm.
and just felt like this was the wave of the future. And I looked at it as just a huge opportunity to just write and then perform. And I could perform all over the country, all over the world. And that's literally what I had done. And so I literally wrote probably, I mean, like, it's got to be like at least 3 hours,
Yeah.
like obviously unfinished stuff. But
Mhm.
so I wrote all these jokes and the girl that I'd been seeing at the time, my girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, she kind of gave me the idea. She was like, you should do an album.
Mhm.
And I didn't think it was a possibility. And she was the one who kind of like gave me the confidence to do it. She was like the one who encouraged me the most. And so I started looking at the material and then started narrowing it down. Like, all right, I like this joke. I like this joke. I don't like this joke. I like this joke. And so I started to build this whole thing together. And it started to tell this story. Because before COVID, I was single, I was going out, I was drinking and partying and having a great time. And I'd been sober off of drugs at that point for probably about 4 years.
Mhm.
4 years, maybe coming up on, yeah, about 4 years or so. And so I never really talked about that stuff. And so I'd been building this material and I wanted to tell this story about how my life started to change. And so I went from talking about how like I used to be this big partier and how I cleaned up my act and I got in this relationship and then I became a father and like all these things. And then talking about being older and being in my 40s and stuff
Mhm.
that 40-year-old men have to go through, and then how the world has changed, as opposed to being like, I'm an 80s baby, I'm a 90s kid, so the world is certainly different than it was back then. And that just, I don't know, I just tell this story and I started piecing all these jokes together and working my observations into it. And then the album just like it kind of just birthed itself.
Mhm.
So I did Zoom for 15 months and then I got on the road Memorial Day weekend. I was host like a host feature at Laugh It Up in Poughkeepsie. It was the first show that I had done since lockdown happened. So it was the first show where everything started to open back up. And then I was on the road just about every week from Memorial Day weekend to October of 2021. Yeah, October 2021. And then when Omicron spiked, I went back on Zoom, worked out more material. And then when everything opened back up, but like right around March, I went on the road from March to September. And
Mhm.
that's when I had this hour because I was starting to get more headlining stuff. So it was perfect. So I would be able to like kind of like Tetris, where you're like moving pieces in and out, moving things around, seeing which way it would fit best. And so that's how the hour got whittled down and narrowed into what you heard, a few weeks ago. But
Mhm.
it all just kind of like worked out. But that was a very special person. She really just she was the one who encouraged me and kind of pushed me into that direction because otherwise
That's great.
I don't know if I would have had the confidence, which is funny to say because I'm a confident person, but
Uh,
you put your material out there and that's a whole nother level of confidence. Like you could put clips up,
yeah.
but you put an hour out there. You're like, fuck,
Yeah.
this is intimidating.
Yeah.
you know.
I really appreciated the album, especially because, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you know, we've interacted, so I know how you are, and I know that you're a sensitive guy and stuff like that. But to look at you, you look like a typical New York bro.
Yeah.
So the album kind of really took that whole facade away, and and you started out kind of being, you know, at the beginning you're kind of the typical New York bro, and then as I think you put it together very well, because as that kept coming, as the hits kept coming, it started to come away that, hey, you're a little bit more enlightened, and I hate to say woke, but you're a little bit more woke than the average New York bro guy. And
Yeah.
so that's really what I appreciated about it, because I'm sorry, but we get these first impressions when we see people, and I know people get first impressions of me. They're like, what's up with this guy? He looks like he should be in The Hills Have Eyes or something like that. And so I know you get that kind of stuff, and breaking that down, I think, is, first of all, it's important if that's what it is, unless you're going to play a character like
Hmm.
like you're going to be a Sopranos type character or something like that, then you could certainly do that. But
Yeah.
you really took the fact that, hey, you know what, I'm a regular guy, but I've also got this depth behind me, and that did come through in the album.
Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, that's one of the most humbling things anyone can ever say, because I know how I look. I know the persona that I give off. And that was something that I learned when I went to acting school, literally during like right in the before COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Maggie Flanagan studio, and and Charlie Sandlin is just a master of his craft. He's the master teacher. He's the head instructor. He is Maggie Flanagan,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the first thing that he really instilled in me, was like, if you put in the work and you show people like this sensitive side to you, because you've got it, you've got it, it's in you already. And if you can harness it and show it to people and be that vulnerable self that you want to people to see, well, these doors are going to open for you. Because I wasn't always a comic. I wasn't always a comic. I wasn't always, I wasn't always a great boyfriend. I wasn't a good partner. I just, I fit the mold of a typical toxic bro.
Yeah.
And that when I hit my 30s and I started to get my shit together, and then I got into therapy and then got into acting school, I was like, this whole world opened up for me
Mm-hmm.
in such a very beautiful and life-changing way, man. Like, I mean, I'm not, I'll be the first one to admit it. Like, I love to cry. I think it's great. I cry. I meditate and journal twice a day. I pray twice a day. Like, you got to start doing those things, because it helps. It's like the secret sauce of your life,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the secret of life. It's just to find what kind of makes you pop.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a shell.
Yeah.
This is just a shell, and everybody has their own different shell. But it's like, it's like, what's in here? This is what makes you different, not this.
Mm-hmm.
This
Right.
can change.
Yeah.
From the album till now, I've lost fucking like 32 pounds.
Uh-huh.
This is just a shell. This is interchangeable.
Yeah.
These tattoos, they can come and go, but
Yeah.
showing this is that's the beauty of it. And
Yeah.
that's what I want to do with this album. And the goal of it was to tell these jokes, to tell this story, and to try to have it almost become like a skeleton key for me, where I can start to open up some doors that, people might not want to open for me.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can't open myself, because if you looked at me, if you looked at my headshot, you're like, this guy's a fucking lunatic. This guy looks like he just left a frat hazing, and
Yeah.
not me at all. I love being a dad. I love being in a relationship. I love doing all these other things.
Yeah.
Do
you feel like being in recovery kind of forces a type of introspection that you really need to continue to stay off of drugs and that life?
I think, how do I put, I don't want to say something that doesn't sound too insensitive or not on the money, but I think it gives you a superpower.
Uh-huh.
I think being in recovery, I think people that are in recovery are some of the most special humans that are out there because
I
we've
think I
seen.
think Brad Garrett said something like that.
Really? No,
Yeah.
fuck, man. Well,
Yeah.
that's good company to keep.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
But it honestly, it's so true because um we've seen the underbelly, and I just heard this quote. It was actually talked about the difference between religion and spirituality. And he goes,
Mm.
people that believe in religion so they can stay out of hell. But people that are
Mm.
spiritual have already been there.
Ah,
And so that's why
I
they're so
like that. Yeah.
spiritual.
Uh-huh.
And that's so true. Like I've seen the underbelly of life. Like I have been through this shit. I've been in
Yeah.
rehab. I've woken up in a hospital. I've had handcuffs on me. I've been to jail. Like it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world because
Mhm.
right now I have such a different perspective on life. You could, for an acting role, you can give me a piece of material that I can break down, identify, and make it my own.
Mhm.
That's the thing that, in terms of like being in recovery, it gives you perspective. And I think a lot of people live in a bubble. They live in a bubble where if there's something that's outside of the bubble, they can't identify with it and it's jarring. But people that are in recovery, they don't have we don't have a bubble.
Yeah.
We don't. It already burst. The bubble fucking burst, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. Was 40 a hard birthday for you?
no, no, not at
Good.
all.
It wasn't for me either. 30
No.
was really hard for me, and 50 was fine. 55 was really hard, but that's when I started falling apart. So,
Yeah.
when you go to bed feeling fine and you get up and all of a sudden your knees swollen and you don't
Yeah.
understand why, that's when it hit me. But I see a lot of people just really get, I guess, freaked out by 40, and that for me that was like just another day. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
my
Oh,
I think I had kids at home when I was 40. I don't remember. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think I've gotten to this place where I'm just happy with who I am and where I am. And because of that, I'm happy with the journey that I took to get here. Like if
Mm,
you're not happy with who you are, then you have a right to be upset with the path you took.
mm,
But if you're happy and content with where you are right now, then you have to be content with the process that you went through to get to where you are.
mm,
And you know the difference between turning 30 and 40 for me was completely different. Like at 30, I packed up a bag, spent my life savings, and moved to New York, and I didn't know anyone.
yeah.
All I had was this idea of let's try to do stand-up comedy. And I failed at it. Not saying failed like getting on stage, like I was not even getting on stage. Like work was too intense and I couldn't keep up. And so
Mm,
comedy kind of went away from me for a couple of years. And when I turned 40, man, I was I was working the road. I was doing stand up every week. I was in a beautiful relationship. I had the love of I had the love of my life. I had a child. Like I had all these beautiful things. That's how I walked into my 40s.
mm,
My girlfriend at the time threw me a surprise birthday with my two best friends in my hometown.
yeah.
I mean, well, the place that made me, which was
Uh-huh.
Albany. Um, you know, and that was a magical moment for me. So like when I looked at turning 40, I had no worries. I had no fears. I had everything that I wanted and that I didn't even know I needed.
Mm,
At that point, before 40, right around 38, 30, 37 and going 38 going into 39, I wrote off having a family. I wrote off, girlfriend, wife, child, wrote off all those things.
mm,
And then the universe fucking opened up and gave me something so unbelievably special that had just it just transformed my life,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly life has a way of humbling you, and now I'm, now it's just back to me,
Yeah.
which is a sad thing, but you know what? I walked into my 40s stronger and better equipped than I think a lot of people are,
Mm-hmm.
which is a beautiful thing. But I equate that to just having a good support system, and having your mental health be a priority, your mental and emotional health. At that
Mm-hmm.
point, like I was still meditating twice a day. I was journaling twice a day. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta have everything with you.
Uh-huh.
You can't bottle anything up. So
With the meditating and journaling, because I've toyed around with both of them and it never really stuck with me. Do you feel like that opens up your creative mind when you're done so that the writing is easier and better?
oh my God. The bane of my existence is when I'm sitting meditating, eyes closed, beads in one hand, crystals in the other. I got my rosaries around my neck,
Uh-huh.
and then I get an idea for a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, son of a bit. You know how many ideas I forget, how many jokes I forget because I refuse to break the meditation. Like
Yeah.
that's how committed I am to it.
Yeah.
It's, it's,
Yeah.
it's insane.
That's great. And
Yeah.
but coming out of it, you're in a headspace where I would think that you're starting out with a clean slate and none of the you know that the few times I did it, you come out of it and none of the you don't have any weight on you
No.
at that for a few minutes after that. And you talk about forgetting jokes. I am so bad at coming up with the perfect joke and saying, "Oh, this is so good, I'll never forget it." I don't write it down, and then the next day I'm like, "What the fuck was that joke? I have no idea."
Yeah. That's why I got the post-its.
Yeah.
That's why I got the post-its.
Yeah.
You get I smoke weed, man. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna remember.
Yeah.
You know? But that was the thing. Like, so I started doing this during COVID. And I know that, we're 3 years removed from when everything first hit, but like that was a very revolutionary time for me. Like I
Mhm.
changed or transformative, I should say.
Mhm.
Because it changed my whole life. It changed my whole perspective. It changed how I approached my own life, how I showed up for myself every day. And I have
Mhm.
non-negotiables like, I wake up, cold shower, meditate, journal. And so when everything was shut down, I got to do that. Like I got to wake up, cold shower, meditate, journal, and then it was jokes. And I
Mhm.
would just sit and just write for hours at a time. And then you're able to work because it was Zoom, you're able to
Mhm.
work those jokes out. Like the fact that you can come up with an idea in the morning, write it out, work it out a little bit, and then have, oh my God, Scott, I was doing 5, 6, 7 mics or shows a night, 5 or 6 days a week.
Mhm.
I was getting up 20, 30 times. And like it was so magical. And like so what you're saying is having it be able to being able to unlock that idea, get it on paper, get it on its feet, and then get it out there. I'd love another fucking lockdown. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The rate that I was working, it
Yeah.
was fucking perfect, man.
Yeah. I think, and I didn't do as many Zoom mics, but just the fact that you had somewhere to say the stuff out loud
Yeah.
was important. It didn't the feedback didn't matter as much. I mean, if you got some, that was great, but I don't know how you are, but after I write something and I think it's good, I can say it out loud, and even if there's nobody in the room, I can tell if I should actually say it on stage or not.
Yeah. I have um in the last year, I've had to get used to that
Uh-huh.
because obviously Zoom has pretty much not gone away, but it's not as frequent as it was.
Right.
And, um, I'm not out there doing, you know, three, two, three, four live mics a night or doing, 2 or 3 bar shows a night, like,
Mhm.
working more on the road. So it's like I'm doing less shows, but I'm doing more time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I have to get more into that mindset where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you can't take a underdeveloped idea and then take it on the road. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have to take it, develop it, and then maybe work it in somewhere.
Yeah.
So the rate of where I'm working out new material is certainly not as quick because I'm not saying them out loud, but that has certainly changed in the last, I would say, few weeks.
Yeah.
Just trying to get, because I'm starting to go back out on the road now. So, which is exciting.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
great.
that's the thing. That's where I got to go. I got to
Yeah.
write these jokes and start telling them out loud because you got to see how it sounds.
When you were working out the album and you did a bunch of dates, and I know you were moving stuff around, did you have any well, two things? Did you have any times where stuff that worked everywhere else just didn't work with the crowd you were in front of at the time? Or did you have any epiphanies of, hey, I wasn't going to put this on the album, but now I am because it turned out to be much better than I thought it was?
Yeah. The last joke, those last two jokes about the VHS tapes and my dad catching me.
Yeah.
Those were jokes that I wrote when I was in Chicago in March of last year. So the end of March was the last new joke that I wrote for that. And as soon as I did it, I was at the Up Comedy Club in Chicago. It's on the third floor of the Second City. And when I did the act, because when you listen to the album, you can't visualize it.
Yeah.
But I had done this act out about tripping and falling, trying to get the tape out of the VCR. And when I did it live for the first time, that last show of the World Comedy Expo was the first time that I'd done it live on that stage. And I literally tripped and fell and knocked over the bottle of water that was on the stool. And when I did that, the crowd erupted, and I was like, "This is the keeper. This is the keeper." And so, so that was a joke where I was like, "Oh no, this has to go on it," because every time I did it, it got a little bit better, a little bit stronger. You're trimming the fat, so it gets a little bit more muscular, and it just starts to hit harder.
Yeah.
And I'm a very physical, and I don't want to say very physical, but I'm a physical comic. Like I grew up, I love Dane Cook. I love Robin Williams. I love the act outs. I think it sells the jokes. I love, Eddie Murphy and the storytelling, and obviously now Sebastian. Like, so having that that joke, I know that joke can work in like 90% of the rooms that I do, 95% of the rooms.
Yeah. And it comes through really good on the album. And I mean, you don't have a ton of misdirects on the album. It's mostly, except for like waking up in the hospital bed. That one took me by surprise. But just the fact I could see it because I remember when I was a teenager, I could just see opening the door and not remembering that my pants are still down. And that I thought that was really good. But now that you talk about doing it upstairs of Second City and doing the act out, I can see where that would just make a crowd go wild.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And because I'm so big, it's like I can't always do that on smaller stages. So I have to like hold it in, trim it back, like to fall, like to just like kind of like drop down a little bit. I got to get that act out in any way possible.
Yeah.
And you can see, and I was just watching a set from when I was on the road last month, and the crowd it wasn't there. Like they were just tired at the end of the show. Like it started late. There was like extra comics that, that necessarily weren't. Less is more sometimes in stand up. And
too many guest spots, right?
Hey, listen, you know what? No, that's it. I want to keep getting booked. But by the end of it, that was my ending joke, and like I knew that I knew that they were tired, and so I was tired. And so when I got to that joke, I was just like one of these like it was like a half-hard dick. You're just like, all right, there you go. And it still worked. And so you're just like, all right, this is great. But there's definitely some jokes like that don't work. Like the resting Republican face joke.
Mhm.
That joke deeper to the entire set. Like us whites, very similar to our material. The material about us.
Yeah.
So that's why I love doing it. Yeah, but that's why I love doing that joke. I mean, I grew up, I loved, I loved all those other comics I talked about for their act outs and for the way that they perform. But when it comes to like actual joke writing, I love George Carlin. George Carlin is the GOAT to me. He was who I watched time and time again. I've seen every special dozens of times. And so the best bit of advice I ever got from watching it was when he said, find what drives you nuts and make it funny. And the way that we are as a people is just ridiculous. So I'm going to make fun of it every chance I can get.
Yeah. And we need that. And it's funny because there are a lot of folks, and I talk about boomers because there's always some boomers in the audience, and a lot of times they have their kids with them or whatever. But a lot of them really have a good sense of humor about things, and they're self-aware, and they know that we're just dumb, and they're okay with being made fun of. But the ones who don't, and it's usually not a boomer, it's usually a Gen Xer. Nobody talks about this, but it's the Gen Xers that are really fragile, and they're the ones that are the older Gen Xers that are right up against the boomers, because I'm right up against the Gen Xers, and those are the ones that seem to really get offended more than anybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're the Yelp generation.
Yeah.
They're the Yelp generation. And you got to call them out. Like I love doing crowd work, and I have no problem calling people. I'm like, you look like someone that's going to write a Yelp review about this comedy show tonight. Hands down. And I will pick the whitest names I can think of: Brandon, Cheryl, Meredith. Like, and I just call them out. I don't even care. Like, I don't care who the guy is, what his real name is. In my mind, you're a Trevor. Like that's it. But it is so true, and that's the thing I don't get, because like, I would expect overly sensitive audience members to be like the Gen Zers, where it's this cuddly participation trophy. Everybody likes each other. Like that's what I would expect them to get uptight on.
Yeah.
The Gen Xers, I'm like, you should be tougher. Like I'm on the cusp of millennial Gen X.
Yeah.
Like I'm an 81. Hence my handle. So I'm always like of the mindset, these are just fucking jokes. Like the jokes oh my God, the fucking jokes that I used to hear and see growing up, growing up watching what they would do on In Living Color, Def Comedy Jam, the old days of Saturday Night Live, like, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, like, people would cave. Patrice, people would cave if they heard Greg Giraldo. People would cave hearing some of these jokes.
Yeah.
So it's just funny to me how such a quote unquote tougher generation is so feeble-minded and so weak to can't like they're just words. And I was just talking about this like 2 weeks ago with somebody, but it goes to show you how unintelligent we are, because people don't understand the context. Because it's not so much the words, it's the context.
Yeah.
And Carlin has a brilliant bit about context. but it's this is the world that we live in, you
Yeah.
know? So my mindset is, and I said this in a show last week, I was like, "Oh boy, you're gonna get tight on this." Well, now we're at a crossroad. And do we go a little bit more timid or do we put our foot on the gas? And I go, we're gonna put our foot on the gas.
Yeah.
And that's when I will go straight right into race material, talking about
Yeah.
DNA tests and everything under the sun like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. My impression of Gen Zers in an audience are they don't get offended, but they are taking notes, they're taking mental notes, and they're going to use that against you or somebody like you
Yeah.
at some point in their life. They laugh and laugh and laugh, but they're Gen Zers are gaming life anyway. They're gaming their jobs, they're gaming their families, they're gaming they're the smartest people on the planet right now because they know how the game is played, and so they're just really kind of rolling along. And like you said, Gen Xers, they just don't get it. For some reason, so many of them just they feel like, I guess they feel like they should have more respect, and they're not getting it. Maybe they feel like they should be shit on more, because they're kind of a forgotten generation, because everybody bitches about the boomers, everybody bitches about the Gen Zers and the millennials a little bit, but the Gen Xers are like, who cares?
And that's the funny thing when you talk about it like that, because it's like you have the boomers, then you have the busters, the baby boomers, then you have the baby busters, and then you have Gen X.
Yeah.
Where it's like, listen, pick a pot to piss in, pal. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, you want to get it. Anyone can get it. As long as they're funny and they're intelligent jokes, just, I don't know, just be funny. Just have an open mind.
Yeah.
But it is very true. It is very true. It's Gen Xers that have a tougher time with it. It's certainly white Gen Xers by fucking far, that have such an issue with jokes anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. It's funny. It's something where it's like, you get somebody like me where you're going to tell me that, oh, I can't talk about this, or I shouldn't. Oh no, we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's the only way you can get something, the only way you can make progress in anything is to talk about it.
Yeah.
Get it out there.
Yeah.
But, white people get so uptight about race and politics, and I'll tell you what, Chappelle has a great sketch about white people in politics, or it's a bit he did on one of his HBO specials, but it's just, I don't know, it's so funny. Why take the fun out of comedy? It's just comedy. They're just jokes.
Right. Yeah.
Just jokes. Have a fucking laugh. Smoke a joint, have a beer, and have a laugh. Like, that's it.
Oh man, I have to remember to tell you my favorite line in the whole album.
Okay.
And you're probably gonna think this is stupid, but I laughed hardest when you said "long time sleeper, first time tester."
Oh man.
It was partially the words and partially the delivery, because you sounded like somebody that was calling into a radio show. But for your sleep apnea test, I just thought that for some reason that caught me off guard, and I just laughed out loud sitting by myself looking at a computer screen. So yeah.
Thank you. No, I don't think, I think it's great. Thank you. I remember writing that joke, and I'd been workshopping it on Zoom, doing it a bunch. And shout out to my boy Nick Dees. He was the one who helped me come up with that line. And it was one of those magical moments where it's like you have everything is lining into place, and it's like, how can we bridge this? How can we take this and just make it? And
that's really the hard thing to do, because that was one of your longer bits, and it's hard to get those tags in there that keep them leaning forward and keep them laughing, but also don't overshadow the punchline or the joke. You know what I mean? And that's a real delicate balance, and you did that on that one. It was just perfect all the way through. And it kept me interested enough. I want to know what happens here.
Thank you. That was something that was something that kind of, again, it came out of COVID, because it was like, after I used to do a ton of like observational jokes, and then I had a couple stories and mostly observations. And yeah, listen, after June 2020, nobody wants to hear the observations of somebody that looks like me. Sorry, those days are over. I don't know if they're coming back. I can't tell you, but I know that I am not it right now. So I was thinking, how can I make this work? And so I was always known for telling stories. And so I was like, well, let's start telling stories and then work your observations in. And so the observations became the tags, became the punches. And so because I like to tell stories, there has to be this pop. I was never a believer of there has to be a laugh every, I don't know, whatever they said. Somebody told me you have to have a laugh every 15 seconds. If you're funny and if you're creative, it's going to happen naturally. It might not be 15 seconds. Maybe it's 30.
Yeah.
But you're going to be writing good material you're going to be writing material that can keep people's attention. You want to capture their interest.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where hearing what you just said, it's very humbling. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you deserved it. One of the things I'm noticing, and I don't know if you notice this, some of the, I guess, the way the Brits and the Aussies do humor is starting to be more accepted here, because and you know, when you like you see like a Stephen Merchant, or even older bits by Stephen Fry, or Ricky Gervais, or any of those folks, they're not getting that laugh every 15 seconds, but they're telling a compelling story. And one of the things I noticed, I watched Bargatze's last special, and it's very much different from his previous specials, in that he is not looking for that as many laughs. He's telling more stories. He's showing how he's not quite with this world and stuff like that. It's a little bit different. And when I was first watching, I was like, this isn't as good. And then I went back and watched it again, and I'm like, yeah, this it's not that it's not as good, it's different. He's bringing a different sensibility to his comedy, and I think it's okay now. It's getting a little bit more accepted here.
Yeah. I think that it's a beautiful thing to see how things adapt and change and grow. And I think it also lines up with when you see a lot of these stories. It makes sense because we are a country that loves reality TV, and reality TV is just a story of someone else's life. So if you're a comic and you're on stage or you're performing, you're telling a piece of your life. So people are, if you could do it in a way, I mean, Nate is, oh my God, probably one of the top, he is one of the best comics working in this country right now. One of the best comics in the world, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, how you can riff. Well, I forget, what was it? The Tennessee Kid. Was it the Tennessee Kid? The last one he did, but that was outdoors, and he did a riff, crowd work, and riffed off of a fucking plane that was flying into LAX. And we're like, that's beautiful. Like that's a magical comedy moment.
Yeah.
But I think that idea of doing the longer bits and waiting for the laughs, you have to be comfortable with the payoff, and if you don't get it, then you make fun of it. And like, I've had jokes that as I'm working them out, or even if they're already worked out, and sometimes they fall flat, and you're like, well, big build up, little payoff. I'm sorry. We're not all hitting home runs out here. I don't know what to tell you. But Ricky Gervais, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned Ricky Gervais. I mean, I was just watching one of his specials a few weeks ago, and it's just, he's such a brilliant comic.
And he keeps you leaning in even when he's doing the setup. And
sorry.
Yeah, a lot of his is just his attitude, which is very similar to mine. So I get that. I want to ask you something, because this got stuck in my head. I was listening to another podcast, and I will I'll say it. It's Matt and Dwight Just Might with Matt Alano Martin and Dwight Simmons. They so you just put an album out,
Mm-hmm.
and Matt has just a couple months ago put a special out, and he was of the thought that he can't do those jokes anymore. And he was doing a show with I think it was Tom Takar maybe, and he said, "Yeah, I'm doing all new stuff, or I'm working on new stuff. I feel like I can't do the old jokes." And Tom or the other comedian said, "Why? How many of the people in the audience do you think saw your special? Go ahead and do them." And and that really struck me, because a lot of folks after the album's done, those jokes are done. Are you going to be somebody who's going to use those jokes and then weave stuff into them? Are those jokes done for you now?
No, I've already been weaving stuff in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've already been weaving stuff in, because it's like, listen, if I'm getting hired to feature or headline a show, I don't care where the fuck it is. It could be a club, an Elks Lodge, it could be a goddamn retirement community for all I care. You're paying to see me at my best. I'm not going to show up with some half-ass bullshit. No, not at all.
Right.
No, you're going to get the top jokes, and you'll get the top jokes that I think can fit into where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So I've been leaning into telling more stories and doing more jokes about being sober. And so I have a lot of material, and sometimes, you just work it in. But like I said, I wrote, and maybe it's an advantage, I don't know, man, but like, I legit wrote so much stuff. Like, if I turned my computer around, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 notebooks of just jokes that are written, and that's not even including the stuff that I have on my laptop already, that I've already typed out, because that's my whole process. It's like notes and ideas on the phone, then it goes into the notebook, and I handwrite everything out. I write all these jokes out hand by hand, and then I work them out at mics or bar shows or whatever. And then once I think it's a finished joke, then it goes on the laptop. And when it goes on the laptop and it goes up in the cloud, that's when it's bona fide and ready for the show. But there are certain times when you're writing, and I don't know if you were like this or if you interviewed other comics, but like, you get a joke where you're like, oh, this is just too fucking good. We got to take this right on stage.
Yeah.
It just depends on the level of confidence you have as a performer.
Yeah.
You gotta believe in your jokes.
Yeah. I did that recently, and it didn't work out very well. So, but the joke's not dead. It was just the way I presented it.
What do you mean? I have put jokes out there and quickly pulled them back.
Yeah. This needs a little more polishing. Yeah.
Fucking swing and a miss. And that's the thing. As long as you can make fun of yourself on stage for doing it, the audience will respect you.
Yeah.
If you go up with half-ass shit and you're like, do you not know who I am?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is comedy gold.
Yeah.
The one thing that is like my biggest pet peeve is when a comic goes up there, does jokes, the audience doesn't get it, and is like, and then they call them out and be like, oh, I don't know why you guys don't get it. This worked last night. And you're like, yeah, it's not working now. Be in the present moment, pal. Like that. Yeah. It's not working because for some odd reason, it's just not working.
Blaming the audience is never a good thing.
No, it's awful. It's not their fault. Or maybe it is. I don't know. It depends on how many shows you do down south.
No doubt. Yeah.
Just depends.
Yeah. So, what would you've been doing this long enough now, what would you say is the best piece of advice you've gotten from another stand-up?
Oh, wow. I mean, I could say can I say a few?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is some of the advice I've been told or I've heard and just learned. Two are by Bill Hicks. First one is jokes are what you fall back on when you have nothing else to talk about. Another one by him was do what you think is funny, not what the crowd thinks is funny. Go up and have fun. That's probably the biggest thing that I've really taken away is just go up and have fun. And just be ready to adapt. You know, you got to be in the flow. You can't predict when a waitress or a waiter is going to, drop a drink or someone's going to sneeze or fart or snort. Like, you don't know when everything's going to happen. You don't know when you're going to get heckled. So you got to be ready to adapt and go with the flow. And sometimes I fall prey to this, but if you're on a joke and something happens, move on to the next joke. Don't restart the fucking joke. Because it's not going to hit as hard unless what had happened you can incorporate back in. Like I one of my favorite clips is I do this joke, and it's the first joke on the album. It was the first joke I wrote during COVID. It was about having sex on drugs. And I was doing this upstate at a club, and there was this like table of half-wit fucking Duck Dynasty rejects. And they had been going at it for like the first like 5-10 minutes of the show. I was like the host feature. And I was trying to get into this joke. And as soon as I got to the second line, the guy jumps in again, and I stopped and ripped into him, got a great clip, posted it, TikTok, Instagram. And then I went back to restart the joke. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have. In the moment, the joke still worked, but it was one of those moments where you're like, as you're doing it, you're like, oh, fuck, I should not be doing this, But the biggest thing, I think, outside of having fun is get out of your own head. Get out of your own head. That's it. At this point, when you're on stage, it's just you. Be who you are. I had a comic. This is great. His name, I don't know if you ever get a chance to interview him. His name is Mark Riccadonna.
I interviewed him about 1.5 years ago. Mark's great.
Oh God, dude, fucking salt of the earth. One of the funniest comics that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And he was like, no matter the crowd, no matter the show, no matter what it is, you're always going to be a little nervous. Don't let that sway you. You just go up there and just have fun. That's it. Just have fun. You're just, and the bit of advice was, treat it like you're just talking to your friends. That's it. Because this was like right when everything started to open back up. And I hadn't really been doing, a ton of stand-up in clubs. Like it was a lot of like outdoor shows. So like, it's funny how comics have had to adapt over the last 3 years. So like you adapt to Zoom, which is different than StreamYard, which is different than doing a show in the park, which is different than doing a show on the rooftop or in on a street corner. Like, and then you're in a bar, you're in a club, and it's like all these different elements that you have to deal with. So, I remember we were doing a couple shows, and I was like, I don't know, I was just like a little nervous, and I told him, I was like, hey man, you got any bit of advice? Obviously you saw how the first show went. Yeah, any advice? I mean, you saw my set. What do you recommend? And he was like, just go up, have fun, treat it like you're talking to the crowd. And at that point, I mean, listen, I'm like, 6 years in. 6 years into doing stand-up. I mean, I've done some pretty awesome shows, but it's nice to hear those things.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear it. So the biggest thing I would ever say to any new comic, write every day, go up and have fun, stay out of your own head, and do what you think is funny. Those are the four pillars that I would hold myself to now.
That's good stuff. I agree. And I think the hardest thing is to get out of your head. It's and there are times when it's so easy, when you're totally cool, and just one thing can happen that just makes you doubt everything that you've ever written, and it's tough. Yeah.
I I think comics were very, very special people because no matter what we have going on, and this is not to negate what anybody else does, but our job is to make people laugh. Our job is to make people forget about what they've got going on at home.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to block it out. Like I was telling this story to somebody. This was coming up, what's it, March? So next month, April. April, my aunt, who was a second mother to me, had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I found out 5 minutes before I was about to walk through the door to do a private gig for a chain of grocery stores.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even have, it was just one of those moments where you're like, all right, you know what? We're just going to put this down. We know it's there. Just make it through, do your shit, get your money, and then go cry in the car like you want to.
Yeah.
But that's it. But that's it. It's like our job is to make people forget about what their life is really like when they get home.
Yeah.
And so, being able to be in the moment and have that opportunity to connect with people, it's special.
Yeah.
Nothing feels as good as to have somebody say, "Hey, man, I really needed that." Like I did. I don't know. I did a show last month and the guy had been sober for 9 days and his wife came up to me and was like, "We knew when we sat down and you started telling your jokes that we made the right decision to come out that night." Like it was the first time that they'd been in public around alcohol since this guy got out of detox.
Uh-huh.
And
that's got to be a great feeling.
It's some of the stuff, and I joke a lot about being emotional and crying, but it's like those are the things that really resonate. That's the stuff where it's like when if you start to doubt yourself, you go back to those moments. You have to keep like a Rolodex of rewards.
Yeah.
That's hearing that is like a fucking reward. That's like a golden nugget.
Right. Yeah, that 100%. And there's ones I remember too. And you have to, and you also have to remember the times that you got sat on your ass too, and so that you don't think you're the best thing in the world and you don't think you're the worst thing in the world. So that's important.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm stoked for this. This is the new it's not new anymore. This is a part of the show where we both bring a joke or a bit to the table or a premise or whatever, and decide if it's anything. And the segment is called "Is This Anything?" And I just love it. As the guest, you get to choose who goes first, either you or I.
I pass it to you.
Okay.
I will let you go first because I've never done this.
Okay.
I'm looking at my wall. I got a couple jokes right here. So
yeah, I've gone first every single time, just so you know.
Oh shit. Oh, okay. Oh, then fuck. I'm so sorry. Damn. Not to bring up your old memories.
I'm used to it.
Okay.
So this one is I'm going through a little bit of a comedy identity crisis because I've been one type of comedian. I'm trying to be a different type. So this one, I think it's okay, but it may be a little too heavy. And this will only be the second time I've said it. I did it for another writers group, and they all cringe. So we'll see. Springtime. I love springtime because that is the time where my seasonal depression starts to float away and my regular depression hasn't woken up yet. It's a fantastic time to have like 48 hours of feeling like a normal fucking human being. And that's it.
Oh my God, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's more. So I started to add more. Like it's almost like Christmas, except for I don't want to put a gun to my head, something like that. And that kind of takes it over the edge. But I wanted to address depression and put it out there, but yeah. I just don't know if there's any meat on the bone there.
Say it. All right. Say it one more time.
Okay. I love springtime because that's when my seasonal depression starts to fade away and my regular depression hasn't woken up from hibernation yet. And I get like 48 hours where I get to feel like a normal fucking human being.
I mean, if you really want to kick it up, you could say something to the effect of like, it's just like turning your clocks ahead. You know what they say: spring forward and load that gun up.
Yeah.
Spring forward into suicide. Or you could go back to being like, I still, even though my seasonal depression is over for those 48 hours, I still keep taking my meds because God damn it, I'm not a quitter.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's kind of like the people say I'm not a quitter for like getting sober, or why they don't get sober.
Yeah.
So you can go that route. I don't know why. I think spring forward to suicide is fun.
Yeah.
Especially
like
if you have other suicide jokes, then you could tie into it. But people are very sensitive.
Yeah.
Do you have any other tags for it, or is that just kind of like the
No.
idea that you have?
Yeah, that's pretty much the idea. I was thinking about going into, during that 48 hours, going into like more, gosh, you normal people, the thoughts that go through your head, like, it's a nice day, I should take a walk, and versus it's a nice day, I should stay in bed, stuff like that. Do some comparisons between a normal person and a depressed person.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to. I think that's a nice way to take a look at the joke. You could be like, yeah, something to the effect of like, that feeling. You wake up in the morning, you open your blinds, you pull back the curtains, you see such a bright sunny day outside, and you're like, you know what, this is perfect for just going right back into bed.
Yeah.
Or maybe just like or go with the route of, because it's springtime, I don't close my blinds at night because it feels better to close them in the morning when my depression comes back.
Yeah.
Something like that. Let's see. I don't know. And then like go with things that are like dark. Like, I don't know. For some odd reason, I was thinking like Batman, always in the dark. He's in a cave. You want to make your house, your bedroom look like a cave. Oh man. I think you could have, honestly, I think you could have a lot of fun with that, because a lot of people are depressed. A lot of people are undiagnosed depressed. Maybe mention the medication that you might take for seasonal depression or actual depression, and then play around with the words for it. Yeah, I don't know. I like spring forward into suicide.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep going back to that. I know why I do. I like alliteration on jokes, especially for certain like little things where like da 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 da. It's like the way that it sounds, the way it rolls off your tongue. And then especially if you could do it in a way where the words, where the letters of the words line up to be an acronym for something else.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I feel like where I'm at, just ending it, I can feel like a normal fucking human being for 48 hours. I think that in itself is a tag. It's not the punch. I need to find the punch and more tags and just add on a whole thing. Okay, this is how a normal person thinks. This is how a depressed person thinks, and just keep battering that. Just go at it like I'm nuts or something. So yeah. I feel like it's a springboard onto something bigger. And I just know in my writers group, they were just all like, oh man, so
yeah,
a happier group of people, I guess.
Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah, I mean, even, yeah, I guess I missed, I guess I didn't even see those 2 days of being normal. I was already jumping between the beginning and the ending. But yeah, for the first 2 days of being normal, you could literally talk about just I live my life 2 days. I can only live my life 2 days at a time.
Yeah.
So I might be technically 58, but realistically, I'm not even 1 year old.
Yeah.
Something I don't know, maybe something like that. So you can only live 2 days at a time. I got 2 days to be normal. It'd be kind of funny if the 2 days, like those 2 days were like, it was like one of the days was like on a Monday. Like, you know what it's like feeling normal on a Monday? Like everybody else is depressed on a Monday, but I'm the one that's like, hey, it's Monday, it's
Yeah.
great. You could go that route. People talk about, if you go from Sunday, if the 2 days are like Sunday and Monday, you have Sunday Scaries Manic Monday, and you're like, that's just what I call every day of the year for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Doing the comparison would be huge, and then really just like hammering home those 2 days, because that 2 day period, whatever jokes you put in, it's like, the seasonal depression and the actual depression, those are the bookends of the joke. So it's like the crux of everything is going to be in those 2 days.
Yeah.
Why 2 days? Why'd you pick 2 days?
I don't know why I picked 2 days. It just seemed like the right length of time.
Okay. Yeah.
But I could do a week.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. I mean, I think if you shorten that 2 days, you might be cutting yourself short on material.
Yeah.
Because you can only focus on 2 days. If you have
Yeah.
3 days or like a week, it might be easier. It
Yeah.
might be easier to create more hooks into the joke to keep people on board with it. And then when you nail them with the depression stuff, they're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm starting to think a week would be great, because I could put together a whole week of things that I did that normal people think is just like a normal day, and exaggerate how they made me feel, or explain why I can't do that the other 51 weeks a year. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like it's a vacation for you, but for anybody else, it's just a normal work week.
Yeah.
You know, for that 1 week, that 1 week is the only time where you could walk across the bridge and not want to jump off of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say go for a walk and smell the roses or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So many little things. I think if you go with a week, that's huge.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't think anything more than a week, because then it's just not going to be believable. And anything less, it really constricts you on what you're going to be able to do with the joke.
Right. Right.
And then you literally, like you said, you can go through all the mundane things. Like, talk about like the shittiest things that people can do. Go to the DMV. Go to the post office. Like, do you know how bad your life is when for that 1 week you're excited to go to the DMV? And you're like, 3-hour wait. Fucking let's go.
Yeah.
Sign me up. I'll hang out at the DMV all goddamn day, baby. This is my depression-free week.
Yep. I got to know everybody in line.
Yeah. Shit, I was so happy. I jumped behind the camera. I was taking the pictures.
Yeah, I feel like I could springboard that into like, 3 minutes or something like that, and have all kinds of, compare contrast things.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, I made a bucket list, and but then on the 8th day, when the depression woke up, I put one more thing on the bucket list, and that was to kick the bucket, something like that.
No, the bucket. No. the buck is what I use to stand on to tie the rope to the fucking beam. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might be something that somebody might not see.
Yeah.
That might be it might be a great misdirect, and then you could go right into it might be like a nice lead in to the depression material.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. And then you could just have fun with it with that week. It's really that's something special. Yeah, I would. That's definitely got legs. You could definitely squeeze 2 minutes, 3 minutes out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Well, I'm going to keep writing that, and I'll send it to you when I'm done.
I would be humbled. Thank you. I love doing that. I love doing that stuff. And that was the beauty of Zoom, having these online writing sessions. They were so much fun. Yeah,
it's the writers group I do on Sundays it's a good group, and they've got they're comfortable enough that they'll just say, yeah, don't do that. And that's what I like. I would rather have somebody say not there's no way you can make this funny, because I'm getting into darker stuff. There's no way you can make this funny. Stop it. Don't say it anymore. And then say, oh yeah, you could do something with that.
Yeah.
I prefer the honesty.
Yeah. No, and that's so true. Like, there's don't bullshit me. That's
You just think that in your head. Don't ever say it out loud.
No, not at all. No.
Cool. Okay, what you got for me? You got one?
Yeah. Yeah, I got one. Here, let me hit record. All right. So okay. So I'm going to be moving. So I've lived in New York. I've lived in the city for the last coming up on 11 years, and I'm looking to move. And it's always so funny how realtors try to sell you on a new property. You know, they're like, well, this has in-unit washer and dryer. This has central air. But like back in the day, 150 years ago, the big sell was, or 100 years ago, the big sell was indoor plumbing.
Mm-hmm. Like,
here we are, we take we take pooping indoors for granted. But 100 years ago, that was the big sell. Come from the outhouse, come in-house.
Yeah.
Your bowel movements are now in-sourced. But that had to be like a tough sell for somebody. Imagine you like the first RE/MAX agent that's out there, and you're like, yeah, no, check out this brand new house. It's got a bathroom. Well, what's a bathroom? Well, it's a room that you can bathe in. Well, what's a bath? Well, it's when you clean up. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. You can even do your business in there. You can even pee inside. You're like, whoa. You had me on the bath indoors, but peeing inside, I'm sorry, sir. I'm not a savage.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like the idea of this whole thing about trying to sell somebody on the idea of indoor plumbing.
Yeah, I really like it, because you went exactly where I would have went with it. The bath's okay, but no, I'm not gonna pee indoors. And the funny thing is my great grandma, she lived to be 103. She didn't have indoor plumbing, so when we went to visit her, I had to go to the outhouse, and that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, who came up with the idea of like, let's pee inside, let's poop inside?
Yeah.
Was it somebody that kept getting splinters in their ass from sitting in the outhouse?
Yeah.
Like, how hard, like, what would be a selling point for a guy?
Yeah.
Well, when it's raining outside, you'll finally know when you're done peeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just all these like little things like splinters, peeing outside, or peeing in the rain, having to go pee when there's snow outside. Like, we think it's fun now. We get to draw our name in the snow. We think that's a great idea. Like, can you imagine having this Dixicle every day of your life? Like, how many times did people wet the bed because they did not want to go outside when it was -10 to take a piss?
Yeah.
They're like, fine, you know what? Listen, we'll just burn this house down. We'll build another one.
Yeah. Yeah. You might try leaning into just plumbing.
Okay.
Just okay, think of it. You're a realtor and you're selling a house to somebody, and you're talking about being able to bathe inside and pee inside, and they're just like, where does it go? Well, it goes into plumbing. What's plumbing? Well, it's the pipes. Where do the pipes go? This shit has to land somewhere. Where is it going to land? You have to tell me, or I won't buy this house. Something, because plumbing is a funny word, and if you're able to say it and then just get into the minute details of what plumbing is and where it goes, that might be something.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because I think having that conversation is almost like a verbal act out.
Yeah.
And then especially if I could create maybe like a character out of it, like figure out how to do like an accent or something.
Yeah. Or like an engineer. It's a person 150 years ago that's an engineer, and they're engineering like wooden wheels for wagons or something like that. And so explain this plumbing to me. And for some reason I foresee this, okay, they get the plumbing, all of a sudden they understand, they want to buy the house, and then you say, oh, and by the way, there's a refrigerator. and it just totally derails the whole thing.
Yeah, there's so because that could be it could be like one of those things where it you start with one bit and it goes from like the bathroom to the plumbing to the refrigerator to a washer, like all these things that we all take for granted now. I like that thinking, and I like the idea with the engineer because I didn't even think of it, because in order to sell the idea of having a house with indoor plumbing, somebody had to create it in the first place. So it's like, how did that board meeting go? Like, how did that guy express that idea? How would, like, hey, here we got all these new houses that are going up. We're running out of space for these outhouses. What if people just poop inside? And they're like, whoa. Listen, Johnson, you had us, and then figure out something that's good. And like, I don't know, say something like, I don't know, you had us with, I don't know, let's just say windows that opened out. I don't know, whatever. But this whole pooping indoors thing, that's crazy talk. Figuring out how to go about it. And that's a joke that's like really fun, because then you actually have to do history. You have to do research on it to figure out what works. But I think it has legs, and I really like it. I like doing stuff like that. And I like the angle that you gave me with going with all these other things. Because let me tell you, having a joke where, especially because like I go on the road, so I'm doing like feature or headlining sets. So like, 45 minutes to an hour, having a joke that you can just plop in that's like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes long. You're like, fuck, this is great.
Oh yeah.
And especially if it's something fun, because everybody's looked for an apartment, looked for a house, and they've looked at these things. It's like I used to talk about being able to afford an apartment in Manhattan. It's like, I got 6th floor walk up money. I don't have elevator money. And that could be something where I could bring that, maybe a little snippet of that joke and put it in with this, and then go that route.
I've got downstairs bathroom money, not upstairs bathroom money.
Yeah, I got outhouse money. I don't know about this in-house. I don't know about in-house money. And that was the thing. Well, why do you call it a bathroom? Why don't you call it an in-house?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. That's something stupid, but it's like, it's goofy.
Yeah, that's a good play on words. I really like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Call it an in-house.
The house has now been in-sourced. Yeah. You're not outsourcing. You're not outsourcing the outhouse. The outhouse is now insourced indoors in a bathroom. I don't know. Something. Yeah. No, that's great. I honestly, when you talked about it before, I was like, oh fuck, I don't I don't even know what I'm going to do, but this is like very nostalgic for me.
Yeah.
I like doing this.
Yeah.
It's so much. That's honestly, that's the best part about being a comic, being around other comics, where it's like having these conversations, whether it's virtual, whether it's outside of a club, outside of the bar, whatever. And it's like conversations with comics. It's like, dude, it's like catching lightning in a bottle. Where you're like, fuck. Like, you gave me 4 different directions for this joke that I maybe didn't even think of before, you know? So, and literally I could have rattled off 4 other jokes. I'm so glad I picked this one.
Yeah, I really like it. There's so many ways you can take it, and it's one of those. It's like the one I'm working on. You're going to have to do it several different ways to figure out which way is best and which way is funniest.
Yeah, and that's going to be a lot of trial and error, but it's like it's fun to do.
Oh yeah,
because once you get it, once you get the wheels turning, you're like, this is great. And I'll tell you what, this is the funniest thing with a joke like this. You got to do it all at once. You can't do it. You kind of can't do it piecemeal.
Yeah.
So now it's like, now you got to find those longer, like a longer mic or a show that's like is a very low stake show.
Yeah.
You just run it on.
Yeah.
I dig it.
And it just came to me. There's another way you can go about it. You can talk about your great grandfather shopping for his first house with plumbing, and you could make him an engineer, and the wifey's all about it, but he doesn't trust that the poop's going to go out of the house. Yeah. You have to show me where it goes. Damn it.
Yeah. I want you to put your face to that pipe. I want you to see and show me where this shit goes.
You put a can of corn in the toilet. I want to watch where it goes.
Yes. Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Oh, that's great.
And then you could be like, well, I don't really like my neighbors. Is there any way we could put the plumbing? Can we turn the pipes towards their house? Because they're a bunch of shitheads. That's fucking great. I love it. Hell yeah. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, or man. You could. This is getting too long, but you could take it. You could take it where somebody is trying to sell somebody who has an existing outhouse indoor plumbing, and they're like, well, what the fuck am I going to do with my outhouse then? And they're like, well, you can make it a gazebo. You could do all kinds of stuff, but it smells like shit. What do I? You could take it. You could take it a lot of different directions.
A guest house for your in-laws.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Because nobody likes their in-laws. That's great. Oh fuck. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Oh my god. That's fucking great, dude.
If I keep sitting here, I'm going to come up with more stuff. So, and I'm sure we both have things to do. But thank you so much for being on the show. Where can folks find you out on the interwebs?
So I post everything right here. Okay. That is my Instagram handle. It's also the handle for Twitter. And on TikTok, it's just Ralph the Mouth. But you can follow me there. I post everything. I literally post everything to Instagram. Mm-hmm. That is the best way. That's where my link tree is. So on the link tree, you can get the link for the album. You could see my upcoming dates for when I'm on the road. And listen, if you are listening to this and you see that I got a show in your area, hit me up, message me, reference this podcast, reference that you heard me and saw me on Behind the Bits, and I will do my best to comp your tickets or give you a discount.
Yeah.
But you got to reference the podcast.
Yes.
It's the least I could do to help you out.
Unless you're touring with Rick Adana, he will not comp any tickets.
No, not at all. No. Yeah. And if you come up to the show with some horrible, shitty tags for the fucking outhouse joke, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah.
Don't bring that shit around this shit.
That's right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. It's been great to get to know you.
Yeah, dude, Scott, this has been such a pleasure. I'm so thankful for the opportunity. humbled by all the praise, and just really, I just really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.